I actually did an interview with Ethan and then with Coach Day. And I asked him like, all right, based on all your years of experience, all the different clients, all the different athletes, where do you look first? And we called it the coach's eye. They both said the first thing that they look at is anthropometrics. You can ignore this for now, but the first thing they look at is anthropometrics. So for me, right, I don't have a torso. I am just all femur. And when I tuck in my shirt, I look absolutely ridiculous because my torso is so short, right? If my torso grew, I'd be normal height, but for whatever reason, it just didn't want to grow. So ultimately, it's funny now, I can admit it, finally. So for me, that plus really long arms makes deadlifts super easy for me, right? Makes squats, especially if it's on my back, because my torso makes it really hard. Look how open I have to get. It is really challenging for me to go heavy on squats. Ethan's body is flipped. Decently long torso, shorter femurs. He can squat more than he can deadlift. Makes sense. So the first thing that they look at is the anthropometrics of a person. Do they have a really long torso? Do they have really long femurs? Do they have more an even amount between the two? So my wife is completely flipped from me. You'll know because you've trained with her and stuff like that. Long torso, short legs. Squats like a beast, runs fast, does all those things. But her deadlift, not the strongest. Just like with arms, for me, my bench is awful, right? Because my arms are so long and my sternum isn't overly round. These are all anthropometric pieces. I have to get my arms this far back for that bar to legally touch my chest if I was ever in a competition. It is almost impossible for me to get my arms to do this because I have to squeeze my shoulder blades so far. You look at Coach Juliet, what is she competing in at the end of the month? Bench press. Why? She has a very rounded sternum. She's got short arms. These people that have short arms, they're bench press kings. It just makes sense, right? So I'm more built for pulling mechanics. So when I think of pulling, I don't think just upper body. I think of lat pull down. I think of pull-ups. I love pull-ups. I love climbing, right? Take me to a climbing gym, I'm a happy dude. I got a long reach, so I can grab a little thing, can hang on tight, can swing over, and I can pull. But I also think lower body pull. I just told you my deadlift is where it's at. So I'll go sumo, short little range, life is good, can lift a lot of weight pretty easily. Whereas somebody that's on the other side of the mechanics might be more push dominant, right? When we look at sprinters, they have it actually categorized based on those things, whether you're a more bounder because you're long legs and so you almost have this springy boundiness to you. You're a spinner, so you're short legs. So it's literally they barely run across, right? So they have these different categories that we find we can almost put people into what's called archetypes based on their body. Now you don't want to be this is the way I need to train this person because this is the way their body is and I don't even have to watch them move. Common sense, watch how they move first. But I'm sharing this because it's when you start now shadowing even more, you're cool, I know what a squat looks like. And now I'm starting to look at which variation, where can they be on this spectrum? Could they go up? Could they go down? Look at why. Why might that be a good one for them, right? So for me, I front squat. If the weight is anterior, if it's on my front, and my body wants to do this because I don't have a torso, if the weight is here, it pushes me here. It helps me get upright. Does that make sense? Because it actually it pulls me further into the direction that I want to go. Yep. So if a bar is on my back, right, it's wanting to just push me down, just normal, right? But if I'm here, I have to drive my elbows up because if I don't, it pulls me even more forward and I dump the bar. So it's the same thing that happens if somebody naturally, we were talking about this, if their knee caves in a lot, where would I push? Would I want to push this way or would they want to push this way if I was coaching them? You'd want to push out. Yeah. So if I'm trying to teach them to groove that pattern, I can do it personally. I can give a physical constraint. I can push in, and then they're oh, I want to push out. I don't want to go that direction. So we actually push them further into the direction their body already wants to go. Does that make sense? Cool. So you often see it with a push-up. You'll see somebody go down for a push-up because we're going to talk press. and they go here, and they're like this. Where do you think I push? Push their ass. I literally put my knuckles, because I don't actually ever touch someone's butt, right? It's just not a good thing. But I'll put usually it'll be a closed fist, so it's knuckles, back of palm, elbow. Those are my safety things. Just want to be highly respectful. You never know anybody's personal history, trauma, anything like that. So you need to be highly aware of that, especially if it's ever more male to female. Be extra, extra aware, cautious, always ask first, but it goes all directions. It's just a side note tangent. But I'll tell them, I'm like, hey, push into me. And I'll actually put pressure right at the tailbone, the top, right at your SI joint, and I'll have them push their butt into me because I'm helping them find that correct position that they need to go, right? You could also do it with a band. You can do it however you want. But that's what the barbell, or that's what a front goblet position would do. Pulls you more into the position you want to go, so we counter it. You teach the body how to recruit the other muscles. Make sense? Sweet, sweet.
I have a question about deadlift.
Yeah.
So today I had a woman who, I just went over and I was like, hey, how's it going, whatever.
Yeah.
She was deadlifting and she was like, I'm working on not having my butt come up first.
Yes.
So what is a good cue, either just short and snappy, as I'm walking around, be like, okay, yep, good, a short little cue. Your arms first? But,
yeah.
Or a longer cue.
Yeah, usually it's more of a longer conversation, but come on up. So demonstrate exactly what she's going through, just so that they can see. Yeah. Yeah, so her butt shoots up.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, so what do you think is usually the reason that happens? Take a random guess. It's a hard one to know. They're what?
I feel like she's just not snapping her quads.
Snapping her quads could be absolutely right? Could be that she's not engaging through her lats. Absolutely. So you got all these options that they could be. Any other ones? Yeah. Yeah, she could just be in her head about it. That's actually a really good one. I wouldn't even have thought of that. So always remember that. That's even good for me to remember. It could just be something in her head. She's been overcoached, overcued. Usually what happens when the butt snaps up, you'll see it too in competition, the bar drifted away. So if the bar drifted away from your center of mass, we're trying to counter. So we're coming here because that pulls the bar back in. So it's usually why we see the butt lift before we actually see the body move as one. So come back up, Amelia, just because it's easy to demo. So go down into the base of your position. So I would teach her to set that bar up correctly first. So I would really work on that, see if that fixes it. And then my cue would be Amelia, I want you to imagine there's a string attached to your shirt. And when you stand on up, I want you to pull that string right on up. I want you to just be like a puppet. And it's literally pulling you from the center of your back. Imagine someone's grabbing your bra strap and just ripping you up. I'll be very specific about that, with whoever that is. Yep. And usually that helps because then they're I want to visualize this going up. So I'll give them some place on their body to try and feel that may take it away from some of the other pieces. Yeah. Cool. Sweet. So yeah, does that make sense as far as what we do? Squats, what I want you to start to look for? Yeah, cool. Yeah, just start imagining what would I do from here? So coach's eye, Ethan focuses on anthropometrics, so does Day, so do I. Next thing that they both focus on, one of the other things they focus on, the second one for Ethan was feet. He's looking to see foot pressure. Because a lot of times, if it's here, if it's here, if it's here, it's here, you have so much information, you're oh my gosh, if I clean up. And one of my professors back in the day, who's a physical therapist, he's I fix most knee pain and issues within the hip, within these two joints, by just focusing on push your entire foot flat into the ground and make sure that there's what's called joint centration. Jake answered that beautifully last week. He was organization of the joints. I'm yeah, they're central to each other, right? So he's I can fix most squats, most hinges with pain in the knee or the hip from those two things. So that's why Ethan focuses on it too. You're cool, it makes sense, right? The other thing that Day focuses on that I do as well, but she does it second. First, she looks at their anthropometrics really quickly when she's looking at a person. Why are they doing this move? What's going on? Second thing she looks at is their face. She's looking for their happy people painful people happy face. She's looking to see if they're wincing. Yeah, but even so, it may not even be wincing. It may be effort. Like, does this look hard for them? Do they look uncomfortable? Like, you get so much information from the face. Are they like squinting? Are they tense? Like, before she even goes and makes an adjustment. Because like rep 2 versus rep 5, like could look so much different, and the face tells us so much. You know, when you look at like the research of how much signals come from our face more than anything else. So that's where she goes. So I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And then it flips. Then she goes to the feet. So she's like, anthropometrics, what should they be doing? What might work? That's an instant snap decision. So start looking at these bodies from those mechanics. It will help you. Like, absolutely. That's why you can look at somebody and be like, all right, I see why Michael Phelps was an elite swimmer. That kind of fits based on this really long torso. Like, it kind of makes sense, right? It's the difference between a lineman and a wide receiver. You're like, absolutely. Yeah, like Kevin Durant's my favorite one to look at from a basketball perspective. I mean, like that foot is like this. The legs are like up to here. The torso's like my length, and his arms are like the size of his entire body. And you're like, oh, this makes sense. He doesn't have to go down to jump. It's literally here because it's all tendinous and his legs are so long, he can compress and spring and he can get like 2 feet off the ground. We don't have to do any, like, we will never get that. So let's start looking at those anthropometrics of the people. Look at their feet, look at their face. It's probably the big 3, right? So they both had those. That's where they went. The only other difference, and this is just because when you want to start looking at athletic moves, not as much in here, but I segment in my head. And so it's a little harder to do, but I literally look at the body in 3 segments. I look at what's happening at the foot, what's happening at the pelvis, section number 2, and then what's happening at what I call the thorax, which is basically your thoracic spine, as number 3. Because I look at them at all separate moving parts, and if one is off, then it's gonna tell me where to go for mobility or stability, or what we need to do. So that takes some difference in training your eye, but start looking anthropometrics, feet, face. And I promise that will get you like 90% of the way there. Push. So we're gonna go over the same thing. You've got a bench here, you got a push up here, you got an overhead press. So when we're looking at push, we're literally looking at the range of motion where you are pushing away. The main thing to really think about, Ethan brought it up, do muscles push or pull? They pull. So are there push muscles? No. They're still pulling to achieve the action. So that it's called a push up, but it is the simple fact that when you're doing anything from a horizontal vector, so within this kind of range, yeah, it's still pulling to allow you to move. Yeah, so that's just something good to keep in the back of our heads, that there's not push muscles. Like, yeah, cool. Hi, May. We bumping rap today? No, she was just telling me. Sammy was telling me. I was like, that's money. Yeah. No, he's been around long enough to know the music thing, and it's like, you just roll with it, and if they have a problem with it, it is what it is, and if they really don't like it, they can wear headphones or they can go somewhere else. So, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. I know how to hit the refund button. Happy, good day to you. So yeah, cool. So where do we want to feel the push within a horizontal area? Typically, where do you want to feel that? Chest, probably the number 1. Yep, tries, depending on the angle. What else? Front delt, really smart. Anybody besides Abby with an answer? He's like medial delt. No. Totally, absolutely. I mean, you press heavy enough. Yeah. Shoulders, all of them. Yeah. What else might you feel? Yeah, in which case? Bench press. Absolutely. Feel them in a push-up as well. If you're trying to create that tension, you may need to be driving through the glute. If you're doing a bench press right, you're driving your feet down. We're gonna go through the actual testing of it so you guys can see, but you'll feel a lot of hamstring a lot of times. People will cramp up their hamstrings doing a bench press. That's why you incline. You're fine. Yeah. What else could you feel?
Your calves, I guess, depending on where you put your feet.
True. Yeah. Possibly, yeah. Yeah. We're just naming a bunch of stuff that's not really that important, but we might. What is the big muscle on your back that does the same action as the big muscle on your chest? Your lats. So a lot of times people will cramp up in their hamstrings or they'll cramp up in their lats when they're doing a really heavy bench press. Because, especially your lats, the lat is the counter to what is happening on the front side. It is what is allowing you to have stability within that movement to allow the other thing to happen. So let's go back to our squat. When you're squatting, what is the major muscle group that does most of the work? The one major muscle group? Your quads, right? A lot of people say glutes. Yes, that is number 2. It definitely gets really fired up, but your quads are number 1. What is typically the muscle that is helping you stabilize through that range of motion the entire time? Hamstrings, right? Like before you said hamstrings. Absolutely. It's usually the antagonist to the other side of the agonist that is working. And so that is what is called the difference between muscle function and muscle action. When we get into programming, this is gonna be important. Ethan kind of like skimmed on it, but it was like deep into like 2.5 hours. And so we're like, I don't want to dump this on your brains. It's hard, right? So the action of a muscle is to move a body part from insertion to origin. So we have this little bicep. Yes, it's little, I know, sorry. I don't have Ethan's biceps. I have long arms and I don't care to train them directly. As long as I can do like a ton of pull-ups, I'm happy. So, I don't have James's biceps, I should just say that. So James is gonna come over here because he's got good biceps. This is better. So James's bicep is a real bicep, not like mine. So it inserts here, yes. It originates here, yes. When he contracts, it is moving from insertion towards origin. Through that contraction, it's getting closer. That is the muscle action. On the backside, he also has these really big triceps. I don't have those either. When he's doing his bicep curl, the muscle action moving from insertion to origin is gonna need some stability. What is happening on the backside? The tricep is engaging to resist this movement from happening too much, going too far, going too fast. It is what we call muscle function. Muscle function is when muscles help us move, breathe, and go through gait mechanics and stabilize. Muscle action, move from insertion to origin. Muscle function, stabilize. Good job. You're sexy. Appreciate you. Right? That makes it easy. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. So that's why a lot of times when you're going through some of these things, the lats, the hamstrings, they'll cramp. They're working really hard to stabilize the other aspect of the body to let you get maximum force production through that main muscle group. So it's why if somebody's just loose on a bench press, they're missing out on so much opportunity to get the full pec stretch, to get the full muscle action. So we want to actually know what is happening within these movement patterns from the opposite standpoint. It also allows me, once I really understand this, to start programming better. So before we even get into it, like, what do you think we would want to do with a bench press other than get the chest activated? If we know that the lats and the hamstrings need to stabilize us, what might you want to do? Activate them even more, right? We don't want to fatigue them. Their muscles are always on, so it's not like we need to turn them on, but within programming sense, we'll call it priming. We'll prime those muscle groups so it's ready to stabilize. Cool. So oftentimes you see somebody that's like more novice, they'll do band pull-aparts before they do a chest press. Somebody that has some shoulder issues, right? They'll do a face pull. Get those rear delts because that's gonna stabilize the anterior side of the delt. You're also gonna get some lat. 2 for 1 before we bench press. Somebody might do a glute bridge at the lowest level before they do some form of a squat. Get the hamstrings and the glutes to feel some activation to be ready to stabilize. Otherwise, that first one might not be as great. Now, for some people, young, super fit athletes, like they just go right into it. Their 2 warm-up sets, like 4x8 is going to be their main. They're going to do like 2 warm-up sets of squats, and then they're just going to hit it and they're going to go, right? They may have more neuromuscular coordination, so they don't need it as much. But somebody that's not as neuromuscularly coordinated, they don't know how to create that muscle function. This is where we can make better decisions faster and help people get better results quicker. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sweet, cool. I just like to get into that because then you can start to watch with, if I don't teach that early, this is what Ruby and I were talking about. I'm like, start watching the whole program of people when you guys are shadowing. Start being like, okay, they did this first. Why? I did this to Ruby like so many times. I was like, why do you think we did that move? What does it do? What else does it do? What muscles are turning on? What else? And keep going. Like, it was a lot. Yeah. Yeah. But I want you to have that thought process, you know? So like, why this order? Why would this happen? What is that doing? And then what is the next thing? Oh, there must be a reason that we're doing that. Because like Ruby and I were talking about, I'm like, if I got somebody that's only going to give me 2 days, that's 2 hours, which is really like 45 minutes of efficient actual work 2 times a week. That's not very much. And they're paying a lot of money and investing their time. I better be able to deliver a plan that still gets results with only 2 45-minute sessions. So I need to be very deliberate with what I'm choosing and how I'm even organizing it. So we'll get into the pull aspect in a little bit, but this is my last rant piece, but it'll help. So when you're thinking, I know, there's never a last rant. Don't laugh at me. I should just change my name to Rant. Joseph Rant Hawthorne. That's kind of weird. Muscle action versus muscle function. So if we had a general total body pull day, a lot of times, you'll have day A, day B, or day 1, day 2. Day 1, you're like, all right, I got to give this person total body. It's 2 days. Makes sense, right? Cool. So you're like, I'm probably going to give them a squat. I'm probably going to give them a bench press. I'm going to just do like all anterior kind of like push things. A squat is still a push in my head. And then the other day I'll do all pull. So I'll pull downs, I'll do deadlifts, I'll do posterior aspect of the body. Pretty good plan, thought process already. Many different ways. It's just one of the methods. So let's look at just the pull day. If we are doing deadlifts, what is happening with the hamstrings? We just talked about it last week with the hinge. They're lengthening and then contracting. So we're also training simultaneously a little bit of the back. Ethan said you will feel a back pump, right? Cool. It's not that you never will feel anything. You should actually feel some stimulus. So this is our lower body pull. Now, what is happening when I do a bent over row and I'm just in an unsupported position? My hamstrings are contracting and my back is contracting. So what happens if I don't have this kind of knowledge of muscle action versus muscle function, I could program them in an order that may not be advantageous for that client, especially if they're new and they're only giving me 2 days. So here's what I mean. If I tell you, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have Amelia, she's only been working out, for 30 minutes now ever in her entire life. And she has 1 30-minute session under her belt. She's very new. And so I'm gonna start her off and I'm gonna do bent over rows. So I'm having her work on a pull. It is the muscle action to move from insertion to origin, like the back is getting worked. But the lower aspect of the back is having to do what's called muscle function. It is having to stabilize. So now my bucket of what my body can tolerate is getting fuller and fuller and fuller. Then I take you to go do heavy deadlifts or RDLs. I've already pre-fatigued this area. Doesn't quite work as well. But if I were to be like, all right, let's do some activation stuff, get your body moving well, maybe turn on some glutes and hips. Yes, they're on, but you get what I'm saying. And then we're gonna work on our RDLs first when she's fresh. I work on the muscle action of moving from insertion to origin, right? What's really funny, so that I don't know if you guys saw, there's a clip I did of Ethan where he's teaching you, he's like, this inserts, and he says like, it inserts in my butt. And so his friends clipped that part when he's doing the PVC yellow pull, and he's like, I insert in my butt, and they just got it on repeat. It's freaking gold. It is so good. Sorry. So anyways, moving from insertion to origin, right? And so I'm not doing too much to stimulate like the lower back other than stabilizing through here. But if I pre-exhausted myself and then did my deadlifts, my back could be smoked. And the next day I'm like, man, I was here. Then when I went to go do my deadlifts, I don't have the ability to stabilize anymore. I've already used up all the muscle function. But yeah.
Is there other muscle functions besides stabilization?
Well, muscle function, all our muscles are functioning through how we walk and breathe.
Okay.
So they're allowing us to go through gait mechanics.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Like, what do you mean? Maybe I'm not understanding the question.
I'm trying to figure out, like, is it the muscle function is specific to whatever movement you're doing?
Yeah, so think of like you can focus on your breath. You can be aware. You can take a big breath in right now. You take it out. But before I said that, like 5 seconds ago, were you aware that you were breathing? You were just breathing, right? It just was happening. It was just automatic. And so think of muscle function as it's just happening. It's automatic until we put focus on it. When we put focus on it, now we make it a muscle action. Now it's literally the action of breathing.
The muscle function is the muscle opposing.
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so just from a programming stance, if we understand what is happening muscle function versus muscle action, now we can start to look and be like, oh man, maybe if I started Amelia off, did her deadlifts first when she wasn't fatigued, and then if she's brand new, maybe I don't want her to even be in this position. She probably can't even handle that yet. I'm gonna put her on a lat pull down. But I wouldn't want to do lat pull down, muscle action, exhaust the lats, and then come here. Does that make sense? So we just want to look at like from that programming lens of function versus action so that we can make better decisions. Yeah. Is that sick? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. So, like, there's this girl that comes in every single week, and she, like...
What's her name? Here we go again.
No, that's the...
Here we go again,
that's
brass
the
nails.
5 a.m., that's
Set
the 5
yourself up.
Yeah, she did.
Okay, well, she does these, like, sitting down, like, flies, right?
Yeah.
That are like this. So what's the difference doing it here than doing it here, or than doing it, like, on a bench?
What do you think?
I mean, obviously, when you're sitting down, you're, like,
She didn't
not
roll belt flies
stimulating.
or regular,
She's just doing regular.
like playing on the bench?
No,
So
she's
on the
sitting.
ground.
She's sitting like this, like I am right now. She's doing it like that.
And they're not tucked underneath her legs?
No.
They're out in front?
Yep. Is it because it's like less stimulating? You're like focusing in on more muscles when you're sitting down.
It's probably just being done wrong.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, because we don't have, yeah, just because I can tell you, James will tell you, like, we don't have that as a video within our matrix.
Well, if I see her do it again, I'll let her know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wrong, but I don't know.
I don't know what you're supposed to do, but yeah. Yeah, and remember Ethan's conversation. Tell them that they're morally wrong and they're bad for doing it wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Best thing to do is go look at the video. Like, literally pop over and be like, cool, let me look at what's going on. I'm trying to learn here. And just go look directly at their app. Watch the video.
So you said there's no video though on it?
No, I didn't look.
Oh.
I just see her do it every week. I thought it looked funny, but I didn't say anything, so I guess
Yeah.
say something now.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think about, like, is maybe Stephanie or Aubrey have found that she's got some kind of entrapped pinch thing happening. And so if she can get some form of lightweight stimulus, her shoulders feel, or neck feels better, and they've just kind of modified a move. So you could always ask.
Okay.
But those are things, you guys see any of that stuff. You're like, I don't know what that is. That's kind of weird. Like, that's the stuff now start to ask the coaches, but first go look at the person's app. That's the best way. Because a lot of times you'll be like, I think that's wrong. Then what I would do is I would go tell the coach, like, hey, so I noticed this, I checked their app, like, did we make a modification, or are we trying to
I think
make
it
some
definitely
switch?
is modified, because she has a lot of modified exercises to go with block.
Yeah, it's very possible then.
The gloves.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I don't know her name either. Wait, yeah, I do. Stacy.
Yeah, they, yeah.
Stacy usually comes at like 7 a.m.
Does she have a lot of modified exercises?
Yeah.
Dark hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Older. Yes. Yeah. She goes like 7.
You said 5 a.m.
5.
She was there at
It's
5.
definitely her.
Yeah,
I mean, I
Stacy's
always do
only
that.
comes to 7, so we do have a few people who wear gloves. Shame them if you want. I'm all for it. Don't really, but well, if it's my dad, shame him. Both my wife and I have tried.
Throw them down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's probably just something wrong. Go look at their app, check in with the coach, and then be like, hey, I noticed it was a little different here, as long as the coach is like, yeah, go correct it. Like, can I show you what I think it may be? Like, you just ask permission. Can I show you?
Yeah, I did it the other day because this girl was, she was doing a neutral overhead press, and I was like, what the, or neutral shoulder press, and the app was just a regular. I was like,
Yeah,
fighters.
Yeah, a lot of times with that kind of stuff, it just feels better on their shoulders.
Yeah.
But yeah, so think about it. If she was doing the actual correct rear delt fly, right, or inverse fly, you would be here, you're fully supported. So the nice thing about this is that you can actually just work on the shoulders. What would the benefit of doing it on a bench be? Why would I program this over that? There's two ways, by the way. You can go here, just raise the bottom, super stable, or go here. Just depends on what they like. What do you think the difference is? What's up? Less resistance?
Wait, that versus here?
Yeah, what do you think? Here versus here
Oh, you
versus
Like, take your chest out of the
here. So, think about it. Correct. Correct. So somebody that doesn't have the ability to stabilize, or somebody that compensates. If I have somebody that when they're here, it usually turns into this, because they don't want to be in that position, or they're not ready for this, or they're very unstable, I'm going to shut that down. I could regress it to this, a little bit of stability. This is good, but it might turn into still too much body English, is what I like to call it, right? Because English is such a screwed up language, and we just like make up words and all this kind of stuff, right? So that's why I like it. It's a funny phrase. But if I'm here, I can't really do that. Like, it's kind of hard to compensate and cheat. Usually, to Jonathan's point, I have to go a little bit lighter, but I'm probably going to dial it in a little bit more, right? So it just kind of depends on where they're at. Does that make sense? Yeah. So a lot of times it's just like, how much external support do I need to give them, or do they actually need? Like, if I'm just trying to either get jacked or work on a certain muscle group, the more external support, the better. There's a reason a lot of bodybuilders literally just sit on machines. Like, I want to sit on a leg extension machine and I just want to beef up this quad. I'm fully stabilized. I don't have to worry about it. All I have to worry about is extend this leg and get that quad to contract. Does that make sense? Yeah.
back squat versus leg press.
Correct. Correct. Exactly. Yep. You've taken out the muscle function aspect and you can just focus on the muscle action. So you reduce that, you can press more weight. Cool. All right. We haven't gotten very far. It's okay. It's me. Ethan's used to it. He's like, I can't be there. I'm like, they're screwed. All right. Let's go through a bench press. More than anything else. Who wants to be my dummy? I mean, guinea pig. Jonathan's ready. Yeah. All right, grab a pair of dumbbells. They can literally be 5s. I don't really care because you're not actually going to be like pressing. Yeah. All right, show us your form. And then you get to talk us through it. He's like, oh, stiff. I'm old. I'm almost like 16. I thought he was gonna wink at me. I got really concerned. It was so like, hey. I was like, whoa. Yeah, totally. All right, so talk us through. Like, drop the dumbbells. Talk us through your position and what you're doing and why.
So, usually I just get down and stabilize, and I like to turn my dumbbells because I feel like I get a better stretch at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Instead of like just straight forward. Because I honestly, I used to do it like that. I actually felt more pain when I did that. So when I turn it, I go back, but then I turn right back.
Yep.
So I can feel that push and get that, and then that's the way.
Contraction.
Yeah, contraction.
Yep.
So,
Sweet. Describe the rest of your body.
my back, I try to keep, I kind of like flex my lats just
Yeah.
to keep them stable. So I have more of a stable push. Because I feel like if I have that, head to, I feel like I'm going more inward than I am.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And then my legs, I don't really feel too much, but I can also be just the weight.
Yeah. That's no weight for you.
I feel like usually when I'm like normally like flat benching, I am like squeezing my glutes a little bit more, and like I like feel my calves a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
So I would say that's about it.
Sweet. Cool. Amelia, you just went through barbell rehab, so run us through. Through the bench press. Like, what are the other pieces? Jonathan did really good. So he explained, like, chest big, we extend, right? Which is great. So we get the chest to actually stretch. We squeeze the lats. So we've actually protracted our scapulas on down and created some downward tension so that we can get that position that is very stable for the upper body. So you did a great job explaining upper body, and even like position of the elbows tend to work, right? But what else?
Yeah, just pressing through those feet, squeezing glutes. The arching of the spine is interesting because like you see a lot of people online and they have like super big arch.
Yep.
Which is like
Some people's backs
fine,
like that.
that's what they want to do.
Yep.
But it also just kind of depends, especially in here, like where people are comfortable with.
Yeah.
And like some people's backs are really sensitive to extension, and some like hate flexion. So it's just kind of wherever they kind of want to be. Foot position, just make sure they're on the ground, their feet. The shorter people can't reach the ground. I like to have my feet like tucked kind of up, like behind me.
Yep.
If that makes sense. So my toes are up off, or my heels are up off the ground.
Which is fine unless you're competing. Some competitions, they wouldn't let you. You have to have your entire foot on the ground. So, and then other ones don't matter. So sometimes you have to raise the floor to the people. Like you put their feet on plates or you put their feet on those risers. Like Juliet will always put her feet on risers because she can't reach her legs down. Depends on the competition.
Is that why someone would arch their back so they can get their leg at more of like a
No, people arch their butt so that
I
there's
guess.
less range of motion, so that they can push
Correct.
their weight.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
You see people with big arches, like they literally, and probably look at the competition, feel like
But I was thinking like, okay, if my back is completely horizontal and I'm trying to push off the floor, it's a little bit harder than if I'm arched like this and I'm like able to like plant my
I
feet
think the
forward
arch
with
also
the
Try it.
helps keep your butt on the floor, on the bench.
I think.
Also, the arch, like the arching of the upper spine makes your shoulders a little bit more movable.
Correct. Yep.
So
Yeah, they're stabilized here, and then you can push through and stay within the pec. If you are not in this position, you will collapse in, and so you've lost the pec, but now you've gotten pretty hard into the delt, right? So for most people, a little bit of an arch is actually a good thing as long as they can keep their ribs down, because that means they're creating enough intra-abdominal pressure so that where they're not extending and putting pressure on that spine. To Amelia's point, if somebody is extension intolerant, means like their body doesn't like it. My body really doesn't like that. It's from a bulging disc. So it's like it gets pissed if I'm in that position too long or I put too much load on that. So that can be problematic, right? But you also have people that are flexion intolerant. So they may just get on the bench and go. And you'll usually see like that dude that's like, what up? Yeah, bro. Like, you know who I'm talking about. Like you've seen like somebody like that. They're like, yeah, bench press and buys, baby, 4 days a week. That's all I do. I got no butt. But ultimately, like they're the ones that love to be down on bench because their bodies are just built for that, you know? And so that position is a naturally a good one. But the foot drive is actually really important. So same thing when you're doing a push-up, right? Because the push-up is still a press. Same thing is here. If you watch someone that has really like lazy, unengaged quads or glutes or abs, their push-up tends to be kind of just floppy and like all over the place because nothing is engaged. I engage things, my lats get turned on into a different way. Now I'm like, oh man, like from here, like it's easy to now generate more force. That's how you can actually do some form of a plyometric push-up. But if I'm lazy and loose like a noodle, it's just not gonna happen. So if you're able to create more tension, you're able to create more force. So more stability equals more ability. So when you're doing a bench, when you're doing barbell, dumbbell, doesn't really even matter. But when we're flat, we typically want, like Amelia said, the feet to be behind the knees. Because when I'm under load here, now I'm creating a wedge. So my feet going here, if I have a heavy enough load, and it's hard for me to do without any kind of load, but I can drive my heels into the ground. If I'm creating pressure this way, now I can create pressure this way. So my glutes are engaged, my knees are actually really pushing out. And that's the one thing I think most people miss and don't know. but I'm actually turning on by externally rotating my hips. Now it's matching where my ribs go because I'm opening up that pelvis. So now I've created a really solid canister here because my hips are driving out and my heels are driving down. I'm like Amelia, I keep my toes so that they're planted and driving hard in the ground and my heels off the ground. That feels comfortable to me. A lot of people want their heels flat. Competition, you have to have them flat in almost all the ones I've ever seen, right? But you're able to create a lot of rigidity down low so you can create force up above. Same thing if you ever have somebody, completely different context, but they're trying to do a step up and they're just super loose with the rest of their body, it's actually kind of hard to stabilize. If I make tension, all of a sudden, it's actually really easy to stabilize. Rigidity equals stability. So create rigidity in the opposite aspect of the body, you'll become more stable, you can produce more force. So that's how we want the legs, yes?
Do you find that in a bench press, if you cue them to start on their feet, does that often also fix the bracing?
Absolutely. It's not any different than a squat. This is why Ethan said the first thing he looks at every single time is foot position. We're talking every move, right? So one of my buddies is a fascial expert. Take that for whatever it is. Fascial, the fascial sling. Don't worry about it, we're not there yet. But even he trains only sprinters, and we're talking like elite level sprinters. His lowest level guys are all combine guys who are going to the NFL. That's his lowest level. Everybody else is even higher than that. But on a pull-up, he's like extremely focused on where the foot is, and the foot's not even making contact with the ground. Yes, based on what he's having his athletes do.
Wait, what's it called?
Fascial, your fascial system. Yeah, yeah. We all have fascia.
Yeah.
It's this thing in our body.
Yeah.
Lets us move. Yeah.
I remember the tensor fascia latte.
Yeah, TFL.
That was like the
Where is it?
thing I remember.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like pointing at it. Yeah, the one that everybody like knows but without realizing they know is your plantar fascia. Everyone's like, oh, I got fasciitis, plantar fasciitis. Like, you've never heard of fascia, but everybody knows of plantar fasciitis. All right. Does that make sense as far as our checklist on a bench press? The only thing that changes, the more that incline happens, is you can't have your feet further out behind you. You're trying to drive force into the ground so that you compress yourself, stabilize so you can do more weight. So if it's incline, your feet are just going to be further out in front of you. It's as simple as that. So that's usually where my heels end up down, right? Make sense? Cool. So let's think about when you're doing that arch, it is making it so that that bar path is less. That is a very common thing, right? Somebody that's got a naturally round sternum, they may not even need to do that if they're just trying to go for muscle hypertrophy and growth. That's where things like having your feet up on the bench or a Spado press are totally fine. Yeah, like we may want that from a competition aspect with your feet down, but if they're like extension intolerant, put their feet up on a bench, totally fine. Or if they're just trying to literally get more motor neurons to those muscles, have their feet up. Like I can't tell you how many people all start out like this because I want them just to get some stability into their body.
That's how I do my warm-up sets.
It's perfect. It's a great way to do it, right? You're not going to move as much weight that way, so you're not going to progress. So we do want to work towards more stable base so we can do it. We can start with an unstable base, right? And if somebody's coming in, they have no like experience and they're not stable at all, do it. Totally fine, right? Cool. So yeah, your feet just move out on that press, even until you're all the way up. When you're doing that arch, what would be the lowest level of regression of that exercise that we could do? You and I talked about this. So I'm going to throw you under the bus.
Okay. Like if they're arching.
Yeah.
Wait, repeat.
I'll vote.
What's regression of a bench press?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go.
Like what would be the next move we give them?
Yeah, what would be the lowest level of regression from that move? There was someone that was doing it at Catfoot, and I was like, why do you think they're doing that move in that position?
Was it this one?
That's actually a really good one. You explain that one, because that actually could be the lowest level of regression.
Split?
Well, I know with this move you're trying to work like up the thigh.
Yeah, more thoracic rotation.
Mobility.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. I don't think I asked it well, and I don't even know how to frame it in a way to make it get the answer I want. So it's not on you. So bench press, they're stable on a bench. Where could they be even more stable?
On the ground.
On the floor.
That's what I was gonna say.
So just like dumbbells.
Because they can't retract farther than their body. Like they can't.
Yeah, they can't fall off the ground. I mean, I've not seen it.
Have you done that before?
Absolutely. So if we think about it, as long as that person is safe to get on the ground, those dumbbells right here, we don't have to worry about where those arms are going. Elbows can't go any further. So it's usually very safe for a shoulder. So just right here, we just work this pattern, get some awareness, gets really good. What would a position of that be if you're like, well, they're not ready actually to be on a bench. They're just gonna be a little too unstable. They're extension intolerant, so I can't put them on there. I can't have their feet up because then they're too unstable. So I'm just gonna keep them on the ground. What might be our progression from just traditional if I'm like, well, I need to get more stretch on the pecs? What would you do? Single arm could be good from like a stabilization standpoint, work some of that. Bar could be a good one too, right? But again,
What about? I feel like that's too much like on the cable, but is that too much stability
That's what I was
aspect?
thinking.
cable could be good, but it can be a lot for someone there, right? So everybody just lay on the ground real quick. All right, you can go, I don't care if you go feet up, feet down, but do your imaginary bench press with your, really heavy weights. Cool. Now, with your knees bent and your feet flat on the ground, bridge your butt on up and now press.
See, I was gonna say that.
So you got just at least a little extra range. You've turned on your lats a little bit and your glutes, so you're teaching that stability. Now you've done what this extension is. You've done basically a decline press. The reason that people will arch on a bench press is it gets it lower, and so I don't have to have the range, but also a decline press takes less delt, more pec. The higher incline you go, more pec, or more delt, right? So now, I'm like, cool, I can progress, I can get them there. Now they're getting used to their body being slightly less stable. It's subtle, but it's one thing. What Ruby and I were doing with someone, we had them doing a single arm from that position, so now the body really wants to rotate. So where do you think that lady's gonna go after she does her single arm? Now we're probably gonna try and put her on the bench. She was finally at that level, about month 4, right? We're gonna put her on the bench and rock and roll. But I only had 2 days a week to program for this person. This is what we were talking about. She gives me 2 hours. She gives me 2 45-minute sessions is really what it is. And I'm like, man, so towards the end, I'm like, I need some pec, I need some delt. It was so much better on her shoulder because it wasn't in these ranges where her shoulder didn't like it. So I'm getting some other aspects of the body, but it's at the end where I don't have to worry about exhausting her back. I'm like, if I can get a little more glute, little more abs. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Sweet. Questions on it? No? Sweet. Shoulder press, overhead press. My only caveats, right, is for most people, that stabilized position where they're on a bench is really good. And it doesn't even have to be perfectly vertical by any means. You can just be one notch down. It's totally fine. You start them with whatever range. And the reason is we've got 2 different areas that the shoulder lives in. You think about where everybody likes to do all their moves, it's called the expression range. So it's from 60 degrees to 120 degrees. Your incline press, all the way to your decline press, and everything in between. Your stability ball, press and toss, everything is done, for the most part, in the expression range. Why would you think that is? Range we live, and it's the range we're the strongest in.
I thought that was gonna sound stupid.
Push-ups? No, you're spot on. Everything lives in this range. People are like, oh, I need to get overhead to put my suitcase overhead in that bin. Sure, it's for the most part, unless a person's this tall, it's actually not directly overhead. It's still borderline within the expression range of where we put stuff. People are like, well, you need to get overhead for putting stuff in that top cabinet. For most people, that's still honestly here. It's not really up here. But push-ups are a lot easier than handstand push-ups for a reason, right? And it's because you've taken out the bigger muscle groups. But this range, if this is the expression range, I'll make it easy, this is the exposure range. It is exposed to a lot of instability, hence the name. The same thing is here. It is exposed to a more dangerous area. And so we want to get people in those ranges. So that's a really important thing, because then when they do reach back, when they do need to go overhead, they are stable, they know where they are in space. But it's why people are like, no, I won't go overhead. And it's because they don't know where that arm is in space, because they don't have enough proprioceptive awareness, because they don't have enough motor neuron recruitment. They don't have enough muscle there, our largest organ within the body that tells us where we are in space besides our eyesight, and they can't see.
After we talked about proprioception, I called my dad on the way home. He was like, "What'd you learn today?" I was like, "Oh, we learned about proprioception." He's like, "What's that?" I was like, "Can you see your arm? Can you know where your arm is if it's behind you?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got one here and one here."
Yeah,
So
you're like, oh crap, I got to start training my dad. But yeah, so when we're doing like overhead press stuff, a lot of times that's an area that we can be a little gray. We don't actually have to be 100% overhead unless like their sport needs it or whatever. Sure, we'd love people to be there, because ultimately, if I can have you safe here, then I know when you're 80, you might still be here and safe. But if I can only get you here at 40, I might be only here at 80. So I want to go for it and get as much as I possibly can. But I'm also going to accept the realities of where we're starting and where we're at. But when we're thinking like as far as shoulders, like we typically are thinking down and back, because you're trying to stack. The same way you're doing joint centration here, I want you to be aware of joint centration here. So if a barbell is sitting here or a dumbbell is sitting here, that joint centration is not happening. Put it on the meaty part of the nugget. Hand can still be folded over, but that pressure should be directly in line with your actual like radial, and then underneath the elbow, and then to the shoulder. So we can be in a neutral position, absolutely fine. We can also be in an externally rotated position, totally fine. You do what is best for them. When we're looking at the shoulder girdle itself, it typically, because it's a ball and socket, works really well to get this rotation. And the main reason is when we look at what the shoulder does, and it's not perfectly symmetrical within the numbers aspect. Symmetrical is not the right word, I can't think of it. But you have like 120 degrees where you're getting actual shoulder flexion within the glenohumeral joint. Then beyond that, that last 60 degrees, it's where you start to get what's called a 2-to-1 ratio of your scapula. So imagine this is my rib cage, this is my scapula, getting upward rotation, which is elevation and protraction. So your scapula now does most of the last bit of range of motion to get you here. Does that make sense? So for every 2 degrees that we go up, 120 degrees to 60 degrees, every 2 degrees of shoulder flexion, we're getting 1 degree that is coming from our shoulder blade, which is why we put so much emphasis, and the main reason most people have struggles going overhead, we put so much emphasis on keep your thoracic spine rotation. It's why Ruby was talking about, we were doing this move with a client. Yeah, we're getting press. I don't really care. Like, I just want to get this back. I want to get the shoulder blades to move on the rib cage again. We lose that. Every go to go like this, like hunch over. Now try and raise your arms as high as you can without changing that. This is it. Good luck. Yeah, zombie creep over here. He's like Halloween. Some thriller, baby. Yeah. So that's why like that's important for overhead. And for most people, the rotation allows that. So that's why like kettlebell presses, the weight's on the backside, and it almost wants to pull you back in. That's why those are so popular. Because it actually helps you go into that range more than even a dumbbell would. So that's where we like to start people, and then they just like get sensitive about the pressure of it. I'm like, just kill the nerves. Like, they'll die. Who cares? Like, you're fine. So,
I have a question about incline.
Yeah.
Overhead press. So I had a woman in today who was doing
incline overhead press?
it was like at back supported overhead press,
Mhm.
I guess. I don't know. The fence is not all the way up. But she had a pretty big arch. Like
Yeah.
her butt was sitting so far away from like where the hinge of the bench was.
Shoulder?
I don't
Barbara.
that's, everybody's older. She's
I honestly don't know.
you know how old she is? Everyone's older. So I'm like,
So is that something that you would cue for her to sit closer? Okay.
yeah, and I, for the most part, especially if it's on a high incline or even like straight up, I'd wedge them in. Like that's what that's for. That solves a lot of it because a lot of times they just start sliding because we want to go back to the ability to express more force, and you want to go into the expression ranges, not the exposure ranges. So your body will default. It's not any different. Ruby made the point earlier. She was like, she's doing this. It's probably where her body wants to be. We probably really want her way down here. But you've probably even felt these with yourself. And like by like rep 12, you're like up here and using some body English. Like it's just it's all of us. So I would try and cue her into that. But I always try and use some form of what I call a physical environmental constraint. This constrains you to sit in that position. I don't have to worry about it, right? So if I can use a constraint to do the job for me, life is good. Yeah, cool. With most stuff, shoulders, eyes forward really helps. So with anything that's going vertical in our projection, including pull-ups, eyes forward helps. Because imagine if you're doing like a pull-up, if we look up, well, we're further away from the bar. We literally move our body backwards because we're trying to make it into a row. So we actually just made it harder than just looking straight forward, right? Make sense? Sweet. So that's one of the biggest things, and that's why it's like, look at the feet, look at the eyes, look at the face. Just go to those two places. You actually need less of the body, and yet that's the thing that's moving. As weird as that is, right? Cool. All right. Core engagement, we talked about that. Breathing, usually it's exhale on the up, which is on the concentric aspect. On most exercises, yes, breathing should just be done. I kind of just let them do it unless I need to create that tension. I really don't want to focus on it. It should be just natural. But if I need to, for the most part, you inhale on the eccentric, you exhale on the concentric on every single one of your moves. Inhale on the eccentric, exhale on the concentric. Where do you inhale? On a pull-up. Which is which part?
The lowering stage.
Correct. Exhale on the up. So it's a hard concept for clients.
I feel like I don't forget it. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's called Valsalva. Valsalva maneuver. It's actually okay through a long duration rep. Definitely not okay if you have someone with high blood pressure. But other than that, it's fine. Usually a long duration of multiple reps, it's not advantageous to your best performance.
I probably breathe, just not knowing it.
Yeah. So let's go through a lat pull down. So when do you inhale?
On the up.
Wait,
Oh,
I have to think about it.
Wait.
Yeah, on the up.
Yeah, on the up.
inhale on the up. Whenever the weight goes up. So if you're doing a pull-up, you're the weight, you're going up, right? So you exhale, you inhale when you're lowering back down, exhale, right? When you're over here and the weight itself, right? So you're gonna exhale, the weight went up, and you drop back down. So it's whenever the weight is going up that you're gonna exhale. Whenever you're doing a pull-up, you're the weight, you're exhaling as you're going up. Whenever you're doing an inverse row, you're the weight, exhale on the up. Whenever you're doing a push-up, you exhale on the up. Whenever you're doing a bench press, you exhale on the up. Whenever you're doing a squat, you exhale on the up. Whenever you're doing a deadlift, you exhale on the up. The weight is going up. If you are the weight, the weights are the plates. Exhale on the up. Makes it pretty simple. Yeah. There are like some cases where that's not entirely the case, but that's going to be machine specific. So, helpful?
Almost like when you're more engaged, you're exhaling. Wait.
The harder part. Whatever the hardest part is, that's where you're usually exhaling.
Yeah.
Okay, I would figure it'd be opposite because when it gets hard, don't you want to brace more? So wouldn't you want to inhale?
Also, as you exhale,
So like brace yourself.
So, stand up.
Because I don't know, I'm just thinking. When you're doing a squat, I feel like on the down is harder.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Right.
And then when you're
So you want to inhale, so you fill your,
yeah.
so you want to fill your diaphragm with air, right? So you have two diaphragms. You have your top and you have your bottom. So you have your thoracic diaphragm and you have your pelvic diaphragm. They work in conjunction as one concentrically loads, the other one eccentrically loads to catch. And you create a bucket of pressure. It's called intra-abdominal pressure. As I inhale, I've created this entire balloon effect. And the reason I say balloon is now I'm super tight, not only through my abs, but through my sides, pushing air into my back, pushing air down into my pelvic diaphragm, AKA your pelvic floor, kind of important, pushing up in. So now I've created this tight canister in an area that doesn't have a lot of muscle in comparison. So now I'm super tight, right? So if I'm inhaling, I've got all this pressure. And now I can, as I'm coming up, I can exhale, which is gonna then create extra pressure to get out so I'm not losing it, right? So you wanna think on your way up, I can exhale. Or I can do Valsalva maneuver like Abby was talking about.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's what I do. Yeah.
I'll kind of like hold my breath. I mean, specifically for like a squat.
Totally fine.
Hold my breath going up, so.
But you don't wanna get down with a heavy bar on your back and let the air out here. Like you have no pelvic control because you've let all the air out of the canister. So you wanna fill that up with as much as you possibly can.
Okay.
The easiest way to do it, put your hands like right here. Now I just want you to cough, like, you feel that brace? That's what it should feel like. So if you're ever having a client that's really struggling with creating a brace, because a lot of times you'll be like, brace your core, and they'll just think squeeze their abs. Well, I don't want this. Like, I don't want you to squeeze your abs. I want you to brace your core. So imagine like you're standing there and I'm like, brace. Yeah, you tensed up, right? She was like, holy shit, he's gonna kick me.
He would.
I would. But that's the feeling. A sneeze is where everything braces, a cough, or where you're about to get punched, especially if it's in the gut. You're like, I'm ready to absorb that force that we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So you exhale on the up. Cool. All right. I think we're doing good. We haven't gotten anywhere, but we're really doing good, I promise. You learn stuff? That's all that matters. Right. Yeah. Okay, so here's our horizontal press progressions. So we may start somebody with like a band or even a cable chest press if needed. And that's usually where it's gonna be very externally supported initially, right? So we're gonna start them off. Could be cable where they're seated or a band where they're here because it's super light, especially with band, no tension here. And then I'm just gonna get a little bit out here. So they have to like brace, right? Then I'll go up my ladder, I'll do my floor presses and I'll use all my variations within there. There's a lot of variations within there. Then maybe an incline push-up because I can set that incline really high. And so then I can learn to lower my body to the bar, which can be really good. Now the way that I teach the hand position, everybody go do a TRX row. Then I'll take them and do incline push-ups with that. So I'll do the row. Usually it's like same thing. I have a bar set up and they do an inverse row on the bar. And then I flip them over and I'm like, cool, now match that position. Because usually they want to come here, just natural. And so then we just groove that pattern. I'm like, oh, sweet, I got this. And then it's like, hey, you remember how we start working on the next cue? Remember how like at the top of the row, you felt like you were really tight here and here because you had to like stabilize and brace? Now let's do that on your incline push-up. And I just lower the bar. And now they're learning to create tension. Now they're learning the position. It starts to groove it a lot easier, right? Then we can go up to like a low incline bench and then eventually a flat bench. And I usually start with a low incline because it's a little bit further up the chain, so a little bit more upper pec. Yeah, so it's not like full incline and hard on the shoulders, but they don't have to lay down as far. So if they are extension intolerant, it just is a better position. It's the same thing like if you're ever like putting somebody on a treadmill, you almost always put it at 1 to 2 degrees up, just enough. That flat is a little extra harsh without us even realizing it on the actual tibia. So they start to get like some shin splint stuff. But if you just put just a little bit up, they actually don't have to work as hard. They make it more muscle as opposed to worrying about the joint or the tendon situation. Same thing with a bench. I'll start them there just a little bit or completely on the floor. Because I was like, we can't go to a bench. So we're staying down in this range, right? So, and then I can move my way back on up. And honestly, like This is where the complexity versus loadability, like for some people, it can be drastically different, right? For an 80-year-old who's never worked out, to do a push-up is like a full push-up is probably never gonna happen or really hard, right? But to do a dumbbell bench press, I could probably live here forever. Whereas for you guys, it's like you probably flip that. You're like a push-up is down here, but I can go way more on my loadability scale for my dumbbells than I can with like, now I gotta put like 3 plates on my back and stabilize that to do push-ups. Like, that's not worth it, right? So, and then it just goes up from there. Does that make sense? Questions on it?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about this later, but what would the progression be for pull?
Yeah, well, yeah, let's get to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is horizontal push, so think anything within the expression range. It's where most people like to live. My one caveat, if they have no ability to do anything within the exposure ranges, just like with somebody that has injuries or is more prone to a specific lift. So again, I am prone towards everything pulling. Hinging is my favorite. Set me up with a deadlift, I'm a very happy person. Deadlift pull-up plan, I just want to do that 4 days a week. I'd be thrilled. But I need to have the other elements. Now, when you have somebody that is deficient in those other elements, there are too many people in this industry that's like, okay, we got to fix all these things. That is the wrong mindset. There's nothing we're fixing. We just want to add variability to that person. We want them to have the options to do all the things. That's our goal. We've given you more options to live life and do things better and not have like pain or injuries. We are winning, okay? So the best way to do it, I'll sprinkle in at the beginning a little bit of what they don't have or what they lack. Then in the middle, I'm still gonna give them what they love and what they do well with, because I don't wanna lose that either. So think about that. If I have someone that can't go over here, because I literally have like 35-year-old, like, what up, bro? I'm still living like I'm 20 years old college kid, right? And you're like, dude, let it go. All you've done is bench press for like 15 years. His name is Chris Davison. He comes to the 9 a.m. James is laughing because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. But he's like 42 and still living like an 18-year-old. So he's like, what up? I just want to bench press. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have him sprinkle in a little bit of what he doesn't like at the beginning. Then I'm going to give him what he likes because I don't want to lose that capacity. I'm still building a ton of muscle there. Why would I take away one of the best results builder that he's prone to doing well? Then at the end, I'm going to go back and dose again what he doesn't have. What that does when I'm programming this, that initial that he doesn't have actually gave him more options to be better at the thing he's good at. So for me, it's squat variations at the beginning of a session. I'm still going to hit a deadlift, and then I'm going to do some form of single leg squat variations at the end. So I'm opening up the capacity for my body to do the thing a little bit. Then I'm going to do what I love, which takes away all that work I just did, and then I bring it back in. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, you can do a lot more things. Rather than this full like rehab, I'm just going to do the thing you don't like, right? Cool. There you go. All right, let's fly through these rest ones. Vertical push progression. So if I want to go vertically, I'm going to start with something angled, right? It's going to be from here. Now, the one thing that this thing doesn't show is individual positions within each one. So I'm going to go through this, and then I'm going to show you what that is, right? So then I'm going to go landmine. Because first, if I start here with a band or a cable, cool. I can work on some body instability. Then I can load it up a little bit more with a landmine, which is really great. I can also get some shoulder actual reach. So this is my shoulder blade moving on my rib cage. My elbow is not bending, right? So that's that extra range of motion I want. I want to be able to do this, right? I want to be able to protract and retract my scapula without my elbow bending. That's how you know you have true scapular mobility on the backside of your rib cage. A lot of people can't do that, or they just don't have the motor neuron capacity yet. We need to program in some neuromuscular capacity. They need to like actually do it enough so like, oh yeah, I can actually do that. So that's where the landmine comes in. Then we can get into some kettlebell bottoms up press. Do you ever know what that is? You hold the kettlebell bottoms up. I know. Right, Sammy? I know. So what this does is now I'm focused so much on grip strength. When I'm tight and create tension, we talked about this on a bench press, right? Now it can actually press. Yeah, so smart. It's all the same. Nothing's different. That's what's funny. You learn the principles and you're like, this is all the same. Why am I still learning this, right? But then we can work on just stabilizing through the rotator cuff and your grip. So you're gonna decrease your weight, but usually we're gonna get a lot more tension within the delt, within the rotator cuff, and we can start pressing overhead. A lot of times that motion only looks like this because they're like, oh, I can't, it's gonna fall. That's okay. Because they're creating so much tension in there, we're getting a lot of muscle building that's still happening. Yes, more on the muscle function side than on the hypertrophy muscle action side, but it doesn't matter. It's still happening, right? Then we can go into like dumbbell neutral presses. Yeah, usually just as easier on the shoulders, and that's the main reason why. Then we can go into like more of a classic rotated kettlebell press. Then we can go into some Arnold presses, some dumbbell press of whatever variation. Then you're gonna go to scrape the rack. Does everybody know what scrape the rack is?
I'm guessing it's just.
Everybody know what a Smith machine is?
Yeah.
So assisted pull.
It's the Smith machine, but on our rack.
Yeah.
We'll do one after we do our
It's
positions.
just not locked in, but you're pushing it up.
You're creating friction on the rack, and I've taken away your need to stabilize before you go directly overhead. You're pushing a barbell into that rack, scraping the rack. Yeah, we'll do it in a second. And then you're gonna go into your kind of classic barbell overhead press, and you'll notice I have 3 different variations here. I just like using this one just because it really pisses people off on the internet. It's so much fun. But a military press can only be done standing. There is no such thing as a seated military press. You know this? Okay, so most people don't, and then the internet gets really mad at me, and I like it. So a traditional military press, your feet touch. They can touch by heels, they can touch by total foot, but there is touching at the heels. So what would a barbell overhead press do where your heels are touching? It's core city, because my base of support is so narrow. So it is much more of a core stability-based exercise than anything else. Then you can go into, you can call it a shoulder press, you can call it an overhead press. I don't care, the name is interchangeable. But ultimately, it's this position where you're most stable. And then a push press is where you use that little bit of dip, use a little bit of momentum, and then on up, right? So those are the different variations. But if you ever want to piss somebody off, just talk on the internet about military press. I think I have like 400 negative comments on it already. And I'm always like, oh yeah, do you want to check the research? Thanks. So let's talk about positions. So we always talk about a very stable base, works really well first. So if we were gonna like want to be the most stable, I'd probably do it with a regular bench, and I'd put it at like, you know, a little bit of an incline, and I would go from here with a band behind me. That would be my first variation of my first exercise. From there, if we're not like in that position where we're completely locked down, drop down onto one knee. Drop down onto one knee. It's called half kneeling. So when we're doing our progressions, the first progression we usually start within these. We can start within this first cable band angled press. Band or the cable is behind you, and it's usually contralateral, opposite leg to opposite hand. And we're gonna start here at this angle. Why? Because we're closer to the ground, so we're a shorter lever. We are now working opposite arm, opposite leg, so it mirrors our gait pattern, which is what we do, opposite, so we're building in coordination. A lot of people don't have very much coordination. Like you've seen it, right? But we're also then working on creating a lot of stability. I'm working that opposite glute, I'm getting a hip flexor stretch, but we'll start here. This is great. When we move up to the landmine press, even if I've done all my other variations here, this is then where I start. So then I go back to my first position with my next exercise of my landmine press. I'm gonna press my landmine from here. My second position is here, tall kneeling. Now, it's my standing position, but I'm a short lever. I can work on engaging my glutes, engaging my abs, and I can still do my press. Or I can even have 2 bands and press from this direction, right? Either way, they're attached behind me, but I can come from here. So now I'm focused a little bit more on the extension and flexion intolerances and need as opposed to my lateral stability. Then I go up, and I typically go up into a staggered stance. It could be a staggered lightly, or it could be full staggered stance. But again, I'm up, but now I'm working on, again, going up. Imagine my house analogy. So first we got into the door, we got the mobility. Then we worked on the stability on that floor. Then we had the strength to be able to do it. So now we go back up, right? We worked on the mobility exercises, and now we're back to stability. And so now we're gonna press at an angle from here, or from here, could be even directly overhead. But you're gonna be able to do less weight, especially if you're really nice and open from here, than eventually when you're here, or a slight stagger. So we're just gonna keep progressing those things. But typically it's half kneeling, tall kneeling, staggered stance or split stance is very common, then traditional standing. Make sense? Sweet. Cool.
I've noticed that like halfway when I do my press stand staggered.
Yeah.
And when I stand or when I went to stand high, okay, stand straight. Like when he would press, he could like his butt would
Go back.
He was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a stagger.
Yeah, and imagine that, like it shuts it down. And now I'm a lever. So it's hand over elbow, over shoulder, over hip, over knee, over foot. So now I'm like perfectly straight. Absolutely. So that's just choosing the right. So some people it's like here, like if I'm going crazy heavy on overhead press, I'll literally just split because otherwise I'll want to hyperextend. If I'm here, I'll just naturally want to hyperextend. Absolutely, like something will deviate. So that's just knowing like what is best for that client in that situation.